funding. Right? And so with all that, you had Poole along with Johnson and Rubin issuing statements on social media saying that they were victims and they hadn't done anything wrong. With Poole, for example, saying, should these allegations prove true, I, as well as the other personalities and commentators, were deceived and are victims. That being said, we still do not know what is true, as these are only allegations. And finally, adding, Putin is a scumbag, Russia sucks donkey balls. Also, seemingly regarding his past comments on Ukraine, he appeared to sarcastically write, upon reflection, I now understand that Ukraine is our greatest ally. As the breadbasket of Europe and a peace-loving people, we cannot allow the fascist Russians to continue their crimes against humanity. We must redouble our efforts and provide an additional $200 billion at once. But really, your opinion on Tim Poole or any of these other creators aside, right, the focus of this story is on Ukraine. That is a key thing. Because this Tenet media thing, it is just one small piece of the puzzle. In fact, reportedly, this whole Russian influence campaign has been codenamed Doppelganger. And according to the DOJ, it's run by Sergei Kiriyenko, a former prime minister who's now Putin's first deputy chief of staff. And with that, the department actually published a document produced for a Russian company by the name of the Social Design Agency, detailing something called the Good Old USA Project. And there, the top objective was to, quote, increase the percentage of Americans who believe that the US has been doing way too much to support Ukraine. And with that, they were apparently targeting certain groups in particular, including residents of swing states and conservative states, U.S. citizens of Hispanic descent, and American Jews. But then also, lastly, the, quote, community of American gamers, users of Reddit and image boards such as 4chan, and the documents describing this cohort as the, quote, backbone of right-wing trends in the U.S. segment of the internet. And then besides that, I should also say the document, along with the others obtained and released by the DOJ, explicitly talks about securing Russia's preferred outcome in the election. Because there, while the party and the candidate names are redacted in the versions we have, it's pretty clear from the context clues that this means Trump and the Republicans, which absolutely makes sense because it lines up with what we've heard from intelligence officials in the past and just based on comments Trump has made in the past.
If we don't pay and we're attacked by Russia, will you protect us? No, I would not protect you. In fact, I would encourage them to do whatever the hell they want.
Though also there, I'll mention that there's a video going around today where Putin claims that he wants Harris to win. But really, we've seen most serious people having the impression that that was just a joke, because really everything points to his real preference being Trump. And in any case, this comes as the Biden-Harris administration has announced a bunch of new measures to fight back against Russian efforts to influence this year's election. With the State Department, for example, designating 5 Russian state-funded news outlets, including RT, as foreign government missions. So with that, making it harder for employees of those outlets to get visas to the US. And then you have the DOJ seizing 32 internet domains that were reportedly used to spread Russian propaganda. There, notably, the websites being designed to look like authentic news sites, but they were actually fake. Also, the Treasury Department announced new sanctions, including against RT's editor-in-chief and 9 other employees. So the department saying there that the editor-in-chief is a, quote, central figure in Russian government malign influence efforts. And of course, all of this is on top of other actions that we've seen recently. Like in March, for example, the Treasury imposed sanctions on the Social Design Agency and another Russian company accused of creating fake news sites to spread misinformation. Also, law enforcement has reportedly even been investigating Americans who have worked with Russia's state television networks in the past. With that actually leading to another indictment today of a guy who was an advisor to Trump's first campaign and who's now accused of money laundering and violating sanctions. But of course, with all this, especially when you're talking about investigating Americans, there's a question about where the line is. Right? Some Americans, especially amongst Trump supporters, they see accusations that Russia is spreading disinformation as efforts to undermine their views. And to that point, you just have to take a quick look online, especially on X. Right? You had Russiagate trending, and you had people, not even necessarily just Trump supporters, saying things like, just as in 2016 and 2020, Biden admin to activate Russiagate propaganda to manipulate U.S. opinion ahead of the 2024 election. Which, I will say, this is kind of more of a general statement. No matter where you are on the political spectrum, it never hurts to be a little bit skeptical. But I also think it's important not to have such an open mind that your brain slips out. And often what I see is, for some reason, when the topic of Russian interference pops up, some people will automatically try to make it sound like you're saying, oh, the election machines, those were tampered with by Russia. And what you're actually talking about are the bot and troll farms and the attempts to spread misinformation online, which has been seen and proven. Also, a big thing with this situation is you have people like Paul M. Barrett, the deputy director of the Stern Center for Business and Human Rights at NYU, arguing the government has to walk a fine line to distinguish between foreign election interference and free speech. And actually with that, you had him telling the New York Times, the dividing line is when you identify activity, particularly concealed activity, that is circumventing established regulations for how we try to prevent foreign interference in our election. Right? And if that line is crossed, he says, it's not a reason to just run up the free speech flag and throw up your hands and we're helpless in the face of Vladimir Putin's very clever operatives. And there, I should also say that Biden officials have made a point to say they are not aiming to curb free speech. Right? They've actually been saying that Americans won't be investigated just for repeating or spreading stories they see on Russian state media. And so far, we've seen no indication that that's untrue. Yeah, for now, that is where the situation's gonna end, though obviously we're gonna keep our eyes on it. And in the meantime, I gotta ask, what are your thoughts on any and all of this? Whether it be around Tenet Media and the influencers there specifically, or just the situation win as a whole. But then, shifting gears to a very different topic, let's talk about why so many people are focused right now on Chapel Roan fighting scalpers. Because she has an upcoming show in Franklin, Tennessee in October, and she posted a video explaining, hey, tickets sold out incredibly fast, but not in a good way, in a very sketchy way. And that was because bots and scalpers took basically all the tickets. With that, obviously not ideal for anyone except maybe the scalpers, so her team came up with a plan to get those tickets back to the fans.
So we went through and canceled all the scalper tickets we could. So from that, we're gonna release a limited number of tickets to you because I wanna make sure that tickets go to people who actually wanna come and like our fans.
And as far as how that's gonna work, there's a site that fans can go to request up to 2 tickets. You just fill out a form with payment information and seat preference, and then a select number of fans will get assigned tickets, with them learning by the end of the week if they're picked, and Chapel adding,
I know it's confusing and it's so annoying, but I genuinely am so pissed about the scalper situation and think that people actually deserve to get to my show. This is a larger issue. We're dealing with it.
And so with this, you had places like Variety noting, this is not a new problem. Race scalpers are a very big problem at basically every concert on the face of the earth, but there's not a ton of precedent for artists actually finding and canceling those tickets. So there is some, right? Eric Church has done it, The Cure has as well. Oasis warned that it planned to do it for its tour, with them actually having a sale that was so messy it's now under investigation in the UK. But really, other than that, it's not too common. Taylor Swift did a similar fan request ticket system after the Eras tour sale was botched. Though there, it was never really clarified if those seats were from canceled scalper seats. But for now, we'll have to wait to see how this plays out for Chapel Roan, and maybe this becomes the norm. Or what we may see are scalpers finding just another way around this as well, which personally is what I have my money on. And if not now, it's just a matter of time. And then, we all have changes that we should/need to make, but in order for them to take, most of us need to ease into it. It can't be about giving up a bad habit, but more like reworking your brain to switch up your habit. I mean, take it from the sponsor of today's show, Fume. Fume takes your habit and simply makes it better, healthier, and a whole lot more enjoyable. Because Fume has no artificial flavors, nasty chemicals, or batteries involved. And it's founded on the flavor, fidget, and fixation principle. If you ingrain your good habit into everyday life, it makes healthy changes feel easier, less intrusive. It's a guilt-free alternative, and the fidgeter in me likes the movable parts and the magnets. It's balanced just right to keep your fingers busy, which is kind of calming in a weird way for me. And you can even adjust the airflow to your liking. Plus, it tastes great with tons of flavors to choose from, like retro sweet flavors and their most recent peach blush, all lasting 3 days a pop. They're tasty, exciting, and subtle, not overwhelming. And Fume has served over 300,000 customers, and you could be the next success story. Just go to tryfum.com/DeFranco and use code DeFranco to get a free gift with your journey pack. That's tryfum.com/DeFranco, code DeFranco. Then we had Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift back in the news. Though not because Taylor Swift was featured 5 times in a 29-second hype video for the opening of the NFL season, rather over allegations that their whole relationship is just one big giant hoax. With that allegation absolutely blowing up after alleged breakup documents went viral on Reddit and Twitter outlining Travis's media plan following their planned separation. And those documents were said to be photographed from a desk and said Full Scope Public Relations at the top, which is the company that represents Travis. With the set objective of this plan being to effectively manage and mitigate the fallout from the breakup between Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift, ensuring Travis retains a positive public image, minimizes negative media portrayal, and continues to build his personal and professional brand. And it adding that key messaging would be emphasizing that the split was a mutual decision and that they respect each other and want privacy during this time. Right? And this document even had a date saying the breakup would be announced September 28th. And that following that, Travis would do interviews with a ton of outlets like ESPN, Sports Illustrated, Vanity Fair, GQ, and even local stations, even including plans for interview prep and training and sort of canned phrases Travis could use during those. Right? And so those documents made people think not just that the two might break up, but that this whole thing was just bullshit. It was just a PR stunt to begin with. But, big thing, those documents are apparently fake, and Travis's team might even lawyer up over it. With a spokesperson from Full Scope telling the Today Show, these documents are entirely false and fabricated and were not created, issued, or authorized by this agency. We have engaged our legal team to initiate proceedings against the individuals or entities responsible for the unlawful and injurious forgery of documents. So yeah, we'll have to see what comes from all this, but it's not surprising that there was this big freak out, or really that anything's happened. The amount of people that are so invested in this it's just huge. It's just a matter of if the attention is going to be as big as, I guess, the honeymoon season of the announcement. But right now, there's an insane media frenzy speculating about whether or not Taylor's going to be at tonight's Chiefs game, which, yes, in the DeFranco household, we will be watching. My wife, for Taylor and Travis, and me, because this is the first time Lamar Jackson's on my fantasy team. So sorry, Ravens fans, in advance if tonight does not go your way. It is 100% my fault. So yeah, you're welcome or sorry in advance. But then, switching to sad and serious news, we need to talk about updates to the tragic school shooting that happened in Georgia yesterday. First up, we saw the authorities releasing the identities of the 4 people murdered at Appalachia High School, with the 2 children being Mason Schermerhorn and Christian Angelo, both of whom were 14 years old. And the 2 educators who were killed were 39-year-old Richard Aspinwall and 53-year-old Christina Irami. And